Hi everyone, it's Alan here from Danumblades. I've just got a few things I want to go through today. First of all, I want to show you how I go about making a block that's not quite a full block with a load of holes into a usable piece of handle material. So, it's one of those hybrid blocks that I use. Quite often I use the pine cone ones, but this one's going to be the Buckeye burl. You've probably seen it before if you watched some other videos where I've made it or I've used it on some row stalkers. This one is a piece, looks like it's got some like big hole boring insect has gone into it, but those shouldn't really be a problem because they're going to get filled up with resin anyway. So I've got a couple of blocks I'm going to use. The patterning on them, to be honest, again, they look really nice. You can't really tell before it gets polished up, but I've got a couple of bits of clip that I've done where I've just put a bit of well, it's like acetone over the top of it just so it evaporates quickly, but the pattern really shows up. And what I'm going to do first with these, put them in the moulds I've got for them, but these need to go into my oven at 65 degrees and get warmed up. I usually put them there for a few hours just to make sure all the plastic of the mould is all warmed up, the blocks themselves get warmed up as well. Another bonus to it is that any surface moisture gets evaporated off them. These have been stabilised, so they've been in stabilising resin. The process that I've done, stabilising resin, so these are nice, they've got the polymer all the way through it, that's baked into it, I think it's used about 93 degrees, I'm sure I've got it on one of my other videos somewhere. Then, once it's been stabilised, there were much larger blocks, so I've cut them down, so I've got quite a few of them to turn into handles, so hopefully that should make a decent job of them. Another thing that I've done just after that, I've sanded the sides down just to make them clean them off a bit. But anywhere there's a little hole, I've gone through with like a Dremel, or similar to a Dremel, the cheap version from Aldi. Cleaned out all the recesses, so they've taken all the excess resin away from them. So they're all cleaned up. Now they're going to put them into the blocks, like I say, put those into the oven. I'm going to leave them there for a few hours just to make sure that they're fully dried off. And then they're ready to use. Once they are ready to sort out, I'm going to fill the, two-part resin that I use. Most of the time I use the Alumilite. Now the bonus with using this method, well, I say a bonus, but I like using the Alumilite. I've used it for quite a while now. I get on with it quite well. Makes a decent enough job. I've got this mica powder. These two are going to have a gold powder added to them. Another resin that I've used in the past, this CCR, CCR, which is the resin, CCF, which is a hardener for it, and there's also a CCS, so they've got a a fast hardener, and a slow hardener. Now, I used the slow hardener one when I made a pinecone resin handle, but used it, made a transparent finish to it, so it was the one that I used that has just basically looks like a piece of amber, a piece of white G10 at the back of it. I'll add a photo onto it somewhere. Shows up the colour of the amber coming through. The bonus for it seems to get rid of any holes, little voids that are within the resin that you start off with, but I might try a different method today just to help get rid of that, even though it's not really as important when using the blocks. The downside to using, especially the one with the method with the slow hardener, is if it had any like pearlescent powders or even the mica powders, because it's slow hardening, it allows it to settle. So therefore, you end up with quite a, depending on how you got your block, if it's standing or laid down, but you end up with a layer of sediment at the bottom of it, because it's all settling out in time, and the top of it is a little bit clearer. But the reason I used it for the amber one, it's all the same colour. It just had a slight colour mixing into it, set it all off, and then that was fine. Right, so get these in the oven, and then I can show you what else I've got on the bench. Now we've got those warming up, I'll show you the process in a little while. But first of all, a few things that I've got on the bench. And to give you an example of one with resin and a wood handle, I've got this boar knife that I've made up. So it's got an elm wood handle, and then it's been filled up with a red resin. So it's a red dyed resin, and then with some pearlescent powder, as opposed to what I'm going to be using a bit later is just purely powdered one. It's got what looks like to have well, not a mosaic pin, but a lanyard tube pin, but that's been filled up with some black epoxy, just because the person that wants it is not really keen on having lanyard tubes, but I'd already drilled it this way anyway, so it's got filled up. And the way that I style the knives, especially when I'm using a mosaic pin, so in this case one with a wild boar on it, I usually space them out so it's the pin at the front and the pin at the back. That's got the fuller cut into it that I've got on my milling machine. It's been made from 4mm 14C28N stainless steel. I've got a 20-degree bevel cut into it, and that one's ready to go out. Sheath style is like one of my classic styles, just a little bit longer. Might stick out, look like it sticks out a little bit longer at the top, but it's just so you can get your hand onto it a little bit easier with it being a longer knife. Might be one that you need to use fairly quick. So that one's ready to go. Next one, another pair. This pair has got a mahogany coloured sheath, green stitching on it, and the knives themselves, let's just take those out, are blaze orange pine cones with stainless roebuck pins on them and a lanyard tube. So that one, and the zipper as well, take that out. Oh, another thing that I've got as well as the pine cone and the pins, I've got the file work down the spine. So file work on both of those, make a nice matching pair. Hopefully that's work well, and those will be going out very shortly as well. Another two, these are good workhorse ones. So I did one earlier, which was a fallow stalker with the orange and black G10 handles with orange G10 liners. So I've made another one of those, the fallow stalker version, and I've also done one that's a row stalker version as well. So stainless Corby bolts to bolt it all together. That just helps, gives a bit of a mechanical clamp to it all. They're still glued in between, and with the G10, which I have made them before where I used a black liner instead, but I do prefer the orange liner. It just makes it a nice brighter knife to use. So that's those two. One of those is going to a friend of mine in his store, because he would like to have a couple put in there, so he's going to have a wooden one and a G10 one. And obviously the row stalker. That row stalker one is going to be either is available or was available. A couple other things I need to sort out. So I've got, again, another pair that I'm making. Row stalker and a zipper, or an unzip zipper as people call them. This one's got just solid blocks of orange G10, so make them very good to find when you put them down. And some star mosaic pins on them, but they need cleaning up yet before I can do anything else with them. I have actually got the sheath virtually sorted, but I need the knives finished before I can wet form the sheath. And that's pretty much it for the moment. I've got loads of it again. I've got another bit a bit different to usual. I've got one of my Gilly XLs. That one's going to have a blaze pine cone handle on it with some black liners on. Sabre grind on it with the logo. That's quite a big chunky camp knife sort of thing. Sheath's nearly sorted, but again I need to sort the knife out for it. I've got this trapper. Slight variation on it where I've made it a slimmer handled one so it can be used more of as a kitchen knife, and that one's going to have a pair of red and black pine cone handles onto it. So hopefully get some photos of that and be able to show you that one a bit later. But other than that, guys, I'll wait for the blocks to warm up and then I can show you the process moving on from that. Right, a few hours later now. My moulds are still inside the oven, keeping warm. But the first job I've got to do is sort out my Alumilite. Like I say, it's a slow mixing one, so basically I've got about a 12-minute work time, then a 4-hour demoulding time once the mould is set. But I usually leave it till the following day. So I'm going to do a different process, like I said earlier, where I'm going to degas the liquids. So beforehand I tried degassing it when it was all mixed together, and it makes a horrible cavitation effect and you get all bubbles and all sorts in it, and made a great mess of the block that I was using. So reading yesterday, best off degas it before you mix it all up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my part A in, measure it all out into a part A cup. I've got the right one, yeah. See how much I've got as well. Because the blocks have got wooden blocks and I'm only filling small voids up with it, hopefully I shouldn't need a massive amount of Alumilite. Unlike when I'm doing the pine cone ones, you need quite a lot of liquid because the pine cones obviously don't take a great deal of space up. So I'll see what I've got. What have I got left? I might as well pour it all in. There we go. So I've got just over just over 130 grams there of part A. Let's see, do the same again for part B. This one always sort of crystallises on the top part, a little bit of this part B. So anyway, so we need 130 ml of that, or 130 grams of it rather. Probably more than I need. I just have to judge it right. There we go, that'll do. Right, put those to one side. Now I've got my part A and part B, I'm actually going to put in the gold powder into my part A. There we go. I like to use quite a bit of this stuff just to make sure that it don't, I'll probably use a lot too much, far too much. There we go. But what I find is that if you don't put enough powder in, especially when you're using pine cones, that in between the segments of the pine cone, the powder seems to go away a bit and it seems to go a little bit clear, especially when you're using sort of like dyes in it as well. So anyway, mix it all up. Making sure that this is well mixed. I've noticed in that part B, there's a lot of bubbles in there already. I know that the mixing will probably make some bubbles up together anyway, create a load of bubbles, but put that on there. Hopefully we'll get rid of most of them. So I'm going to put them both into me. This is the pressure pot that I'm going to be using once I've got the moulds full of the resin. So you always put it inside a pressure pot, shrinks up any bubbles that are in there, so hopefully makes them almost invisible. But handy thing about a pressure pot, they're very tough, so good tank. I'm going to use my vacuum pump to try and degas these and hopefully remove as many bubbles as possible. Still degassing, there's quite a few bubbles coming out of it actually. It's starting to look like a caramel mocha or whatever. Pressure back in. Right, there we go. Take that off. Just put it over here for the time being. And I've got my two parts of my resin debubbled. Right, next job. Mix them both together. No, not yet. Let's get the moulds out. There we go, moulds out. Now these have had, well, about 3 hours or so at 65 degrees, so they are very warm. Well, not very warm, but they're warm, dried out, hopefully ready to do. Right. Let's get the moulds are clean enough. Let's get the two parts mixed together. So like I say, these have got a 12-minute work time, so I don't have to be too rushed. Make sure I've got all the resin out. There we go. Right, mix it up. There we go, I think I've got plenty in there. Right, put that to one side. What I'm going to do with both of these is I'm going to put a bit of mixture, a bit of the resin into both of them, because I want to make sure that I've got all the voids filled up in both of these blocks. There we go. Right, probably that one in that way. Now it looks like I've got plenty of resin in either way. Like so. Now hopefully they shouldn't float about. My next job is to stick them into the pressure pot. So put these in. Put that on top. We're level. There. Just to space it up, put my baffle on top of it again. Put the top of the pressure pot on. Switch all the valves off and fill it full of air. Now, as I said, it does have a 4-hour demoulding time, but it's late on in the afternoon now, and I'm going to leave that till tomorrow. I'll take it out of the pressure pot, and then we'll see what the blocks look like. Hopefully they'll be spot on for using as a set of handle blocks. But other than that, let's find out in a bit. Right, so that's the pot being left overnight. Hopefully it's going to come out alright. Let the pressure off. There we go. Start doing the tops. Right, let's see. Stuck together slightly. So I've just sanded these down to, put that to one side. So I've just sanded these down, they're on 80 grit, but as you can see, I think they look quite stunning. American Buckeye Burl, the Californian Buckeye Burl stuff, absolutely nice patterning. A little bit of gold resin in there, still got to clean out rest at sides up, but I'll cut them to size, and then they're going to get out for a couple of people, hopefully to see if they like them enough to put them on their knives. Other than that, guys, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget, like and subscribe, all that jazz. If you're interested in one of my knives, just give us a shout. And other than that, thank you very much, and I'll see you later.